Alrighty, guys, Captain America Brave New World is almost upon us. There has been so much said about this movie. My goodness, there has been so much said about this movie. And a lot of it has honestly been, rumors and speculations about test screenings and things that just generally cannot be verified. And so, we'll have to wait and see. In that same vein, I'm actually recording this particular segment before any reactions or first reviews have come out. And so I have no idea what people think about the movie. Maybe, later on in the week, if we have time to put it into this particular episode of the Access Blockbusters Pod, there might be initial reviews or reactions. I doubt it. Usually, even for the best of their movies, Marvel doesn't release the first reactions and reviews until the week of the movie, like Monday, Tuesday-ish. And so we'll have to see. But generally speaking, I think that there's been a lot of curiosity about this movie. So, like we've been doing with a lot of upcoming shows, upcoming movies that we're excited for. And again, I am very excited for Captain America Brave New World. I think that, while maybe it doesn't have the ceiling of a film like Winter Soldier or Civil War, I think it can still be very good. So like we've been doing for other projects, I am going to go through some of my hopes and some of my predictions for Captain America Brave New World that we can revisit later on when we do our review of the film, hopefully coming out in next week's episode. So, as always, I have written down some things here that we can go over. And for this particular film, I have here 3 hopes and 5 predictions. 3 hopes and 5 predictions. The hopes being just things that I think if those things occur, or if those things come to fruition in the film, then we are off to a good start, and that there will be, it's more likely than not that the film will be a film that I like. And the predictions are just things that I think will happen. Pretty self-explanatory. So let's get started here with my hopes. Number 1 hope is that the story holds up, which I know is a very vague and kind of Captain Obvious thing to say. Of course, the story, it's like saying, oh, well, in order for the movie to be good, I want the story to be good. Duh. And so let me be a little bit more specific here. While we have heard a lot of speculation about, test screenings and negative edits and whatnot, and a lot of people and a lot of writers and things like that, that's all speculation, right? That's all rumor as of the recording of this segment. But what is true is that this film has undergone some changes. And how drastic, I'm not sure, but this film has undergone some changes, there have been some reshoots. Giancarlo Esposito was not supposed to be in the movie until somewhat recently. Seth Rollins was supposed to have a role in the movie, and he is not in the movie anymore. I think, there are a lot of things that have changed, right, in the last few years. It just given the writer's strike, given Kevin Feige getting his authority back. I mean, he scrapped all of Daredevil Born Again, basically, and told them to start over, and yet we're really excited about them. Meanwhile, Captain America Brave New World, well, I don't think he told them to scrap everything. I think he told them to really, go back to the drawing board on a few things, and a lot of us are kind of skeptical. Myself, I'm just curious. So I really think, just given everything that's gone on, this film has been in production, it's been filming for a long time. I just hope that the story, in totality, holds up as a solid story. Adamantium is in the film, Tiamat is in the film, Red Hulk is in the film, the leader is in the film. I think that there's a lot going on here. Giancarlo Esposito and the Serpent Society are allegedly in this film. So again, I just think a lot of this is, we'll see. Because at the end of the day, if the movie is good, none of this really will be a complaint, right? But I think that we got to get there. We got to get there, and we got to say, I want to come out of the movie saying, you know what, maybe I didn't like this thing, or I didn't like this thing, and that's totally fine, because every movie, you have things you don't like. But the story overall was really solid, and it made sense from beginning to end, and I understood the plot. And what I'm really hoping doesn't happen is we come out of the movie and we go, that story was a disaster. It was chaotic, and you can tell that things were pieced together. That's really what I don't want to happen. So that is my first hope. Hope number 2 is the Red Hulk doesn't, quote unquote, unground the film. The idea of groundedness is an interesting one, because we live in a world, or in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where there are aliens everywhere. There are Egyptian gods and She-Hulks and mutants and all these other multiverses. So it feels a little weird to say. I think, though, the reason I say this here is because this film in particular, and Kevin Feige said it, Anthony Mackie I think has said it, that they really wanted to go back to this Winter Soldier spy thriller kind of tone, and the trailers have seemed to promise that, in almost every aspect. It's kind of a paranoia thriller in every aspect except for one, a very glaring red exception, and that is the Red Hulk. I'm not saying that Red Hulk inherently can't fit into a story like this, not at all. I think that, in fact, everything I've seen from Red Hulk, a character that even before they announced this movie, even before they announced that Thaddeus Ross was going to be in this movie as Red Hulk, as soon as Thaddeus Ross returned to the MCU in Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame, I was like, I think that they're probably going to be setting up a Red Hulk, and I'm just not that interested in it. I don't want to see a really, an older man just turning into a Red Hulk. I think that's weird. And truthfully, everything that we've seen from the promotions has gotten me more excited about the idea of a Red Hulk. So it's not that Red Hulk inherently, to me, is a bad idea. I'm just hoping that whatever story they are telling, if they are going in a more grounded direction, that Red Hulk does not work to undermine that. And that every time Red Hulk is on the screen, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is a different movie altogether. This is wacky, and this is more, comic book. It's more Thor Ragnarok, right? Instead of Winter Soldier. And so I really hope that Red Hulk fits into the story well, that he is kind of the monster, the nuclear weapon that maybe Leader is using, against Sam Wilson. And we'll have to see what his actual role is and how Harrison Ford plays into that. But I'm very curious to see how all these things are going to integrate into this story, into one cohesive narrative. So there is that. And number 3, I really hope, and honestly, this one might be the most important one of all. At the end of the movie, my hope is that we believe Sam Wilson can lead the Avengers by the end of the film. I am not one of those people who think Sam Wilson cannot be Captain America. In fact, I already buy into him as Captain America. That's not really my problem. That's not really what I'm addressing here. While I think that Sam Wilson is definitely Captain America, watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a series that, I didn't love, but I thought that it did a good job of building up the character of Sam Wilson to be, enough to take up the mantle, having him deal with his own self-doubts and really going through and allowing him to wrestle with this journey of identity and saying, can a black man be Captain America? Of course, but is the world ready for that? And that's what Sam had to wrestle with in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So again, Sam Wilson as Captain America, totally on board with that, totally buy that. I bought that as soon as that happened in Endgame. I was like, yep, that's great. That's a really good idea. Especially now that Chris Evans is allegedly not Captain America anymore, although we'll see if he comes back. But what I'm not as sold on as of this moment is Anthony Mackie leading the Avengers, because Anthony Mackie is a great actor. He does some terrific stuff in other projects. So, I buy that he can lead a movie for sure, but leading the Avengers is just, it's almost a different, ball game altogether, right? I think Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., Robert Downey Jr. is Robert Downey Jr. He has the charisma for days. I'm not saying that Anthony Mackie doesn't have the charisma, but comparing him to Chris Evans, for example, Chris Evans in the first Avenger, in first Avengers, led the Avengers, but it was only 6 people, right? And I think that he grew into his own as that character. And I think by the time we get to Infinity War and Endgame, you were like, yeah, I believe that he can lead, this huge Avengers team. Like, by the time we get to the Avengers Assemble scene in Endgame, you're like, I believe that. And if rumors are to be believed that Anthony Mackie will have a significant role in Doomsday and Secret Wars, and that he will maybe be one of the leaders of the Avengers, I just want to make sure, or I just want to see by the end of the film that this is a leader. This is somebody who can take charge of all these disparate characters, gods and metahumans and aliens and all these different people, and bring them together under one group and say, this is the Avengers, I'm going to lead it, let's go. That's what I'm really hoping for. So we'll see about that. And yeah, those are my 3 hopes for the film. Let's get into 5 predictions here. Going to run through them pretty quickly because either they're going to happen or they're not going to happen. So we'll have to see about that. The first one, my prediction, is that the post-credits scene is a direct lead into Doomsday. That one feels like a little bit of a shoe-in here, but I don't know what else it could be leading to other than Thunderbolts, because that also seems possible. So I think it's 50-50 Doomsday or Thunderbolts, but I have to say I think that it's probably going to be a lead into Doomsday, just because Captain America is going to have a big role in Avengers Doomsday. So that is my number 1 prediction. Number 2, Thunderbolt Ross dies, and that's why the team is named the Thunderbolts in the Thunderbolts film. The reason I say this is because I don't think Harrison Ford is going to be doing this for much longer. As sad as it is to say, he is not getting any younger, and I don't think Harrison Ford is signing up to be, the leader of the Midnight Suns in 2034 or whatever. I don't think that is the case, and so I think he probably wanted to join the MCU once, had a good time. I hope. He seems to really like Anthony Mackie. And then it leads into the next film, Thunderbolts, because somehow Val is going to take, like, oh, the president is dead and he's a martyr now and whatever, and we're going to name our team the Thunderbolts and, all that kind of stuff. So that's my thought with that. Number 3, the film sets up a vibranium adamantium resource war that fractures Earth for when Doctor Doom shows up. I'm of 2 minds of this prediction, honestly. I could see this. What I'm pretty convinced of is that the film will set up a vibranium adamantium war. Whether or not this plays into Doomsday is really what this prediction kind of hinges on, because I also could just see this happening in the background and then it'll lead into Black Panther 3 more so than Doomsday, or both. It could definitely lead into both. But I think that bottom line, this prediction is saying, I think that with adamantium entering the picture here, and possibly mutants and maybe Wolverine coming in, the new Wolverine, you know, I think that there's a pretty distinct possibility also with the way Wakanda Forever ended, that this is going to really start that World War III kind of vibe that we got going on Earth in this particular moment in the MCU. So that is prediction number 3. Prediction number 4, Giancarlo Esposito's Sidewinder and the Serpent Society are in the movie for maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to say less than 10 minutes because, you know, they inserted these characters basically in reshoots. And while it is Giancarlo Esposito, you know, and while he is a fantastic actor, I think that they're really not going to be in the film that long. I think maybe just like 5 to 10 minutes of screen time is my prediction there. And finally, prediction number 5, I think Bucky will have a cameo. And the reason I say this is actually kind of interesting, not just because Bucky was in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you know they were paired together, but actually because what we know in Thunderbolts is that Bucky's a congressman now, and this movie takes place in DC. It almost would seem weird unless, you know, Thunderbolts takes place way after Captain America: Brave New World, and Bucky becomes a congressman after that. But I mean, I think it's kind of weird actually if Bucky doesn't show up for a little bit, you know, just to say hi to Sam or do something. Because if he is in DC and Sam is in DC, as we see with the White House explosion, there's actually a decent potential for Bucky to have some kind of, you know, small size role in Captain America: Brave New World. We'll see. But that is my thought. I think Bucky will probably have a small cameo. I also said previously too that I think Mark Ruffalo will have a very brief cameo, so I'll just throw that in as a bonus, but we talked about that before, so I'm not going to rehash that here. So guys, those are my hopes and predictions for Captain America: Brave New World. I am hoping for a great film. I have no reason to believe it can't be a great film. I also have nothing to believe that it couldn't be a disaster, but I'm really hoping for a good film. I think that it has the makings of a good film, and we'll just have to see when it comes out, and the next time we'll be talking about this movie is probably going to be after I have seen it. So guys, what are your hopes and predictions for Captain America: Brave New World? Are you excited for this film, or are you still kind of nervous? Let me know in the comments down below.